Welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. Years ago, I began recording the bedtime stories I told my children every night. Now, we would like to share those stories with you. I hope you enjoy my Stories for Wonderful Children.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl.
And Vanilla.
No, her name was not Vanilla. Her name was Lucia.
Lucia?
Lucia lived in a very poor city, where many poor families lived, had many poor children. Lucia was fortunate in that she had a mommy and a daddy who loved her, and who had jobs, so that their family had money. They could have things like a nice home, and food, good food, and cars to drive from place to place. But Lucia's parents thought it important that she realized that not everyone had these things. So they had her help them, and they volunteered to work at a soup kitchen. Soup kitchen is a place where people who had so little money that they had no food to eat at all, they would starve. They came there and they were given food, and frequently the food was a soup, and so that was why it was called a soup kitchen. Well, Lucia would go there with her mommy and daddy, and she would help by dishing the soup up into bowls and handing it to the people who would come for food. She was always surprised at how many of the people who came to the soup kitchen were children like herself, and she noticed, because she was a very observant little girl, that besides looking very hungry and having clothes that were sort of ragged and dirty and faces that were dirty and hair that was sort of messy, a lot of the children, probably most of them, had bare feet, no shoes and socks. Wow.
Their feet must have been cold.
They got cold during the winter, they got dirty during the summer. Sometimes they stepped on sharp things that hurt their feet. Lucia wanted to help them, so she talked to her parents, and they went and they got all of Lucia's old shoes. And the next time they went to the soup kitchen, they brought her old shoes, and Lucia kept an eye out for people, kids younger than her, who had feet about the same size as her old shoes, and she gave them away along with the bowls of soup. But she did not have any extra socks, and she always thought that although the shoes were good, what children really needed were socks to keep their feet warm during the winter, because sometimes the poorer children could get some old boards, and drill holes in them and tie rope through them to make sort of wooden sandals, but their feet were still very cold during the winter months. So Lucia, as she got older, decided to go to school. Well, she didn't decide to, she had to go to school. And she went to elementary school, and then she went to high school, and then she went to college. And in college, she began to study to become an enchantress.
What's an enchantress?
An enchantress is a pretend person who knows how to work magic like a wizard. Obviously, there's no such thing as magic.
Get on with the story.
Just go ahead and ask your question.
Rosalina and Mario.
Like Rosalina and Mario, yes. Rosalina and Mario is an enchantress. Anyway, so...
Yeah, because she has magic. Because she has a wand.
Lucia studied...
Yeah, and she also, floats in the air.
Long and hard.
Yes,
yes, Lucia studied long and hard for many years. And after she had studied for a long time, she became a very powerful enchantress. Her magic that she was particularly good at was the magic of machines. She was good at making machines do what she wanted them to do, and making up new machines. It was sort of an engineering magic. And Lucia, one day, after she had graduated, she was sitting there thinking about how now she had a good job, and she had a good house and plenty of food because she made good money working in her job. But she still thought about those children that she had seen when she was growing up. The little poor children with no socks. And she wished that there were a way that she could help them.
There is. Just build a machine that can make socks.
You know, that would have been a good idea. But that's not what she did. She did something else. She knew that socks often seem to go missing. It always seems like when you get the clothes out of the dryer, sometimes there's just one sock, and you can never find its match. Lucia thought, what happens to all those socks? She thought, they go to waste if only we could find a way to do something with all those socks. And so she began to work very hard on a very interesting and powerful spell. And after she had worked on it for a long time, she made it happen. And the spell that she cast was this. She put a big basket in her living room. And the spell was that so that every time a sock went missing in the washer and dryer, instead of just disappearing, now it appeared in her basket. And socks from all over the world began to fill up her basket. There were actually so many socks that went missing that she had to get 3 baskets. And she tinkered with the magic so that the socks, as they came in, sorted themselves into white socks and light-colored socks and dark-colored socks. And every day after she got off work, she would pick up the baskets of socks and she would take them down to the soup kitchen and she would put them in a huge box. And the box said, "Free socks. Take them if you need them." And it made Lucia happy to see that whenever she went to the soup kitchen, that now all the poor children there had socks. They weren't always matched, and sometimes they were different colors, but they always had socks, and their feet were always warm.
What did she do with the baskets?
The baskets she took back home, and they filled them up the next day.
With socks.
With socks, yes.
Hey, maybe she could take it to the place and just let it fill up and put the...
You know, that would have been another good idea, equally as good as the idea of just casting a spell to make a machine that made socks in the first place. But you know what? Although she was a very powerful enchantress, Lucia was probably not quite as smart as you are, and so she didn't think of those ideas.
So she wouldn't have to walk all the way there.
Yes. All right. That's the end of the story.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was created by Brandon Thompson. If you enjoy the show, please tell someone about it or leave a review on your podcast provider. Our website is storiesforwonderfulchildren.com, and you can also find us on most social media. I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.